Hello viewers, welcome to the Grand Prix where sportsmanship simply does not exist. This is a super formula race around the newly added circuit Gilles Villeneuve on Gran Turismo 7. And as we begin the race, I'm just going to pause it there because I do believe it's important to let you know that my sportsmanship rating at the beginning of this is S, so the highest level you can get. Driver rating A+. This was going to be a carnage field race, as I pretty much predicted when this track got added, and Polyphony have gone none other than the super formula car for this. Probably the most lethal combination you could think of. I tried it in Group 3 cars a couple of days ago when it first came out, and so putting this race, Daily Race A, in super formula cars was simply asking for trouble, and that's what this race proved to be. Now so far in this one, it's actually gone okay. Going from near the back of the pack up to 8th, a little bit slow through this chicane. This track characterised by many chicanes, and we have someone facing the wrong way here for the first time. As we flash by them, use some overtake button to go past this guy as well. This has been a fairly solid opening lap. Up into 6th place with a nice gap to the cars in front. Let's try and catch up with them as we head round the hairpin into the chicane for the first time. Someone's going to serve a penalty. So into the top 5, things are going rather well. Probably thinking, well, this doesn't look too bad, does it? This is one of the worst ways to take the chicane, clattering all over that sausage. And you can see my response to that. So that's definitely not the route through there. Losing our 5th place once again. And now, once we do that, we're on the back foot immediately. And this is what makes this race super difficult, is just managing the traffic, being surrounded by other cars. You'll see that throughout the course of this video, just how difficult it is to properly race each other in cars like this, around a track like this, which is super narrow, lots of curbs, lots of tight chicanes. As we manage to get back to 5th, that's about the end of the positivity in this first race, as we kind of get clattered into from behind, as we have our mini Sebastian Vettel moment, as we come back onto the track going through the cars. I know I was ghosted, but it was pretty neat how we did that. Back to 10th. So not ideal. Up behind this guy. And he kind of just forgets to turn. Just thinks, you know what, I'm going over there. Why not? It turns it into a free roam mode as we get back to 9th place. And as we cross the line, my main aim here was to try to get the fastest lap. I'm in 9th with 1 lap to go. There's not really any chance of salvaging much here, apart from some pride by possibly getting the fastest lap of the race. Let's see if we can do it. Down towards the hairpin, we are going purple here in the 2nd sector by 1/4 of a second. Maybe carried a bit too much speed in. Getting a somewhat decent exit into the chicane at the end of the lap. Definitely can make or break your lap. And I was about to find out some very interesting news after getting the fastest lap on the final lap, as we see here. 1:20.7. Turns out I'm Austrian. Okay, we ended up with the fastest lap. But that is a lot harder than it looks. You are constantly on the brink of death at all times around this track in this car. This guy who was just in that race sent me a message. Video of you playing the M6 on the Nordschleife was playing in the back. All of a sudden I'm racing against you. Crazy, love your videos, greetings from Austria. Thank you so much, mate. He's like he summoned me into the race. And on that note, let's jump back in. Plan C is for chaos. Famous words from Brad Pitt. And that's about to happen. And he was right. It was just about to happen, because merely seconds into this second race, the guy in 9th forgets to launch, and we are going to have our first piece of contact a mere 2.597 seconds into the race, which is just lovely, isn't it? And to borrow some lines from the F1 movie, we are going to have to prepare our car for combat. I think that summarises this race very well, as we have lots of very fast cars in close competition, narrow circuit, lots of curbs. It really is just a recipe for danger, and for combat, and for carnage, and for chaos. Whatever word you want to use. Now we're going to whip out the overtake button. You have quite a long time to use the overtake button in this race, about 30 seconds total. Might be a lot more than that actually, it feels like quite a while. Take a look at the guys here in 5th and 6th, really going at it as we head down towards the hairpin. Smashing each other into the grass, onto the wall. And I'm going to go flying unceremoniously into the back of the Portuguese driver. It really just is not the most appealing piece of driving to watch there, is it, from anyone involved? And as a result of that, receiving our first 3-second penalty, the car in front getting a 2-second penalty, which we are going to serve in a lap's time. With the damage, we get easily overtaken there. We're going to have to settle in behind once again. So this race, I mean, this one was just a real disaster. It's just super difficult to really get out of the pack once you're in it. Serving this penalty felt pretty awful. It always does, doesn't it? A 3-second penalty on a long, fast straight, especially in a Super Formula car where you're going very quickly. We did manage to catch back up to our Portuguese friend here, trying to get the overtake done. I think the main problem I was having throughout the course of this race, Super Formula around Montreal, is the fact that everyone's got quite a mix of ability when it comes to this car, and especially on a new track as well. And therefore the speed differences between different people is quite big. It can be very easy to misjudge what the car in front is doing, and you go into the back of them, not through intention. But sometimes you also do this, you end up just having a tank slapper, into the wall you go. So this was a pretty disastrous race, eventually finishing very lowly 9th. So we decided we have to jump back into some qualifying and set an actual lap time. We can't be starting from the back. We need to start from the front. It's far too risky to go from the back of the pack, and that's a wall that you're not meant to touch in that way. So a bit of disappointment there. On the second time through, managing to get a slightly better line. It's super difficult to get this car working around this track. A lot of the times you're accelerating whilst turning quite a lot. A lot of the exits of corners are very much curved. And so to get the traction down in a way that is fast without spinning is super difficult. I think it's the most difficult thing about this combination. So once I got that a bit better, I was able to get some better lap times. Setting a 20.9 on the first lap, and on this lap 21.1, although going slightly quicker here, so we have a chance to get that lower down. Fastest time in the world is actually a high 17, and the top guys in the world are just super good at getting that traction down without disturbing the balance of the car, which is really tricky to get right. So we're just really having to build up to that. The Super Formula car is one that you do have to build up in. Crossing the line here, 20.2. That's a good lap, but we can go quicker here. This is going to be my quickest lap in qualifying. Into the first or second corner. Coming out in third gear, and that's something I noticed with the top times, is that coming out in quite a high gear. So for example, this one, I come out in fourth. It just allows you to get on the power a lot more fully. It sounds like the revs are dying, but you've got to keep the speed up through the turn to allow that. Coming out of here in third, I think you can come out of there in fourth. And in third, you've got to really modulate the throttle quite a lot. In fourth, you can mash the power. So it's really a case of carrying the speed and getting into a high gear to minimise the wheel spin on the exit. I think that's the magic formula here. Getting towards the hairpin, tricky corner to get right. Probably one of the tightest corners in the game, to be honest, as we are 3/10 up. So flying in, maybe a little bit hot. Coming out in second, you can also come out in third there, trying to minimise the wheel spin on the exit. No overtake button to use in the practice/qualifying. Flying through here, you can definitely take more curb, especially the first curb on the right hand side. It's going to be a good lap. Eventually it's going to be a 120.029. As awful as that felt, 57th in the world now. That's actually not too bad. This is actually so weird because that felt really awful the entire time. Yeah, really hard car to drive. I don't really feel confident, but it was good enough for third on the grid. It's obviously a bit better than starting 12th or 11th, where you're really fighting through all of the carnage. And as we begin this one, we have a chance of maybe trying to win this one from this kind of position. The guy in pole had a 19.6. The guy in front had a 19.9, about half a tenth quicker than me. So quite close between us, and it's quite close between us here. We're going to utilise the overtake button into the second chicane here. Really going hot to get the position. We have to check up on the second apex. And suddenly, if you look at the map there, all the cars from behind don't really check up. And unfortunately, the Williams driver there is going to get bundled into the wall, as myself and the Spaniard are going to pull away and turn this into a 2-horse race. I'm going to go quite aggressive using the overtake button, and that's something that you have to really be mindful of in this race. When you deploy that overtake button, you have a good 30 or so seconds of it, and ideally you want to try and save some towards the end of the race. You don't want to be left empty-handed on lap 7, just in case you do want to try to overtake someone, or of course defend from someone. It is called the overtake button, but you can very much use it to prevent an overtake from someone else. So here, we're going to go very aggressive. A lot of overtake button being used, plus the slipstream on this long back straight towards the chicane at the end of the lap. Fully into the toe. I don't pull out quite early enough, so we do slightly go into the back of him. Try and run him a bit narrow into the chicane, but we do get the position. And weirdly here on the exit, I mean, I don't know what is going on here. Suddenly, boom, there we go. We find ourselves inside each other, as you do. So there is some sort of weird ghosting problem when it comes to that final chicane. I don't know why exactly that is, because it looked like we carried a decent amount of speed through there. But at last we get through in the lead of the race, and I think that's pretty good. It's actually quite tricky to overtake, I would say, on this track. It's quite hard to follow other cars. You do lose a bit of downforce when you're quite close through, especially the first half of the lap when you're going through all these chicanes. Towards the end of the lap, into the hairpin and past that, you can really get in the slipstream and then use your overtake button, and it's a little bit easier to overtake there. So now it's a case of just trying to solidify this position, try to remain ahead of this guy. Coming down towards the hairpin is quite an interesting tactic here. You see on the map, you actually go to the inside. Thinks better of it. I think often it's the case here that you don't really want to overtake into the hairpin, because you're just probably going to get overtaken again on this straight here. This is the place to do it. However, here I do get some good traction on the exit of the hairpin. Managed to pull away, use a bit of overtake button as well, just to keep the position. He does come back at me second half. The slipstream is actually quite strong, but we do just enough to remain in front and stay in the lead of the race. It's a good battle here, so it's quite clear that you can have a good battle on Daily Race A. It just depends if you're in clear air. If you're fighting through a pack, it's just almost impossible. It feels like one of those races where if you don't lunge the guy in front, the guy behind you is just going to lunge you. So it creates this sense of desperation a lot of the time, where you kind of just really have to get on with it, make progress super quickly. Otherwise, the people behind you are going to make progress on you. And yeah, it can get incredibly messy. This is the end of lap 3. Beginning to just pull slightly clear, nothing major, nothing massive. And this is the end of lap 4. This is probably the biggest extent of the gap, using over half of the overtake button by this point, but we are more than halfway into the race. So if we evenly distribute that through the lap, through the laps in the race, is what I meant to say, then I think we're on course to not run out by the end. Lap 6 now, and this guy managed to really catch back up. I got to about 0.8, 0.9 seconds in front, but by lap 6 he was right back on me, and I was driving consistently. I think he saved more of his overtake for later in the race, which was probably quite a wise thing to do, because now I'm very much under pressure with a lap and a half to go. Can we keep first place and get our first race win here on circuit Gilles Villeneuve? Really cool to see the circuit being added actually in Spec 3, as the Aston Martin now very much stalking us into the hairpin. I'm not going to defend, because like I said, I wouldn't mind being second on this straight, because you can just slipstream back by. So having to use quite a lot of overtake here to stay in front. Is it going to be enough? Because I sense that he really wants this now. This is probably the time to do it. I'm going to move to the inside. He goes to the outside line, the racing line. There's not much I could do about that. I could use all of my overtake, but I need to leave some of it for this final lap. And so with 1 lap left to go, yes, that's 6 out of 7 there. Do excuse the meme, I'm sure there's going to be comments about it. We have 1 lap to go. Have a nice little interesting ghosting moment there. There was a potential for a ghost overtake there. Didn't quite work out. But we're going to have to get the business done towards the latter half of this race. Like I said, you really just want to kind of follow as close as you realistically can through the first 2/3 of the lap, and then get the job done on the second or the third of the lap. That makes sense. At the end, through the hairpin, and then into the chicane right at the end of the lap. Here we go then, into the toe, keeping right with him. This is where we need to be. We're doing the right things here. Over the curb, really try to get the exit, squeezing the throttle on to make sure we don't spin out. This is a much better race than the first 2 that we had. Looking up the inside, he half defends it, and likewise we know that we don't really want to go up the inside there. A little bit wide through the apex of the corner. He gets a good exit actually, but now it's time to fully deploy the overtake button, get in the slipstream as well. Can we get this overtake done as we fully tuck into the toe towards the final corner? He's going to cover the inside line. moving to the outside doesn't quite work, tucking back to the inside line and into the braking zone. I'm going to go flying to the side of him. Completely my fault. We've murdered him as he goes flying off into the left-hand side, almost into the pit lane entry. Now, thankfully, he manages to recover and get back to first place, and I managed to finish in second. But it was quite a bad ending to a good race. Oh man, it just got so messy on that last lap. It was a really good battle until then. I messed it up. At least he still got the win. Happy about that. I want to take a look at that replay. I actually think this was actually a solid overtake on the first lap. I had to go quite deep because he was challenging it on the outside. He actually tried it. I had to go in quite hot. I had to really get it slowed down to stay on the track. And as a result of that, it backed him right up. Everyone behind didn't really check up at all. And it ended up in him, unfortunately, being spun out. This guy got a 5-second penalty for that. Let's see that from his point of view then. He was in 5th. Did he maybe push the McLaren in? Possibly, yes. But, oh my god. It's just pure carnage. I think this is the right thing to do, just to go aggressive and try to lead the race from the front. I kept hitting him in the back. I did that twice, actually. So you can see at this point, as we began lap 5, he had all of his boost left. I had used a lot of it to try to stay ahead. Let's see the incident again then. I accidentally bumped him in the back. I thought I'd try it. It wasn't... yeah, it was completely my fault. We'll take the P2. Let's try and get that win though. Yeah, let's try and go for that win, but ideally, let's try not to punt off any Spaniards into the wall. That would be ideal if we could do it without killing any signs of sportsmanship. So far, the sportsmanship has been difficult to come by. It's been few and far between examples of it, but half the time that's because of me. So into the hairpin, lap number 1, we're going to get engulfed by the pack, overtaken side by side, and thankfully we just about remain in 3rd, but that could have gone really badly as we deploy the overtake button, really try to go down the outside here and go aggressive to try to get the track position. Doesn't quite work out. The guys on the right hand side get boosted by one of the cars behind. Try it around the outside, doesn't quite work. Thankfully I ghosted out actually and managed to just about keep 4th, having to kind of chop across here in front of the McDonald's car to keep the position. Now into the first corner, it kind of checks up in front. I go into the back of Scotty, who kind of inadvertently goes around the outside and pulls off a lovely overtake. However, the stewards did not quite see that as an assist, and therefore they give me the 2-second penalty for the contact. Quite tricky to judge how much more you need to check up on the corner entry. And there's so many cars. Look at that. Synchronized spinning on the right hand side. We're going to cover the inside here, but the McDonald's driver wants to firmly go across the grass to try to get through into the next chicane, braking a little bit late, coming off the brake a bit too late as well. Car doesn't want to turn in. We're over the curb. It's not pretty. Having to serve the 2-second penalty now, and you lose so much momentum, and in this case so many positions, 3 abreast there as we go flying into the chicane back to 7th. As we come through, have a lot of work to do now, nearly 5 seconds to the leader. At this point it's pretty much impossible to try to catch up with the race lead because you just lose so much time trying to overtake the traffic. It's really difficult actually to get the job done, I think, on this combination, at least to try to do it cleanly with minimal time loss. Very, very difficult because the majority of the track is very narrow. However, here there was quite a big pack forming. There's 4 of us here, and I knew that probably the best call was just to wait behind. Another hit in the behind of this Spaniard. I was waiting for the 2-second penalty. Thankfully, it didn't arrive. The stewards were a bit more lenient on this occasion. Looking down the outside, fully deploying the boost. Can we get the job done? We're side by side here. Who's going to be the bravest on the brakes? Into the corner. I'm going to go around the outside, firmly into the back of the car in front once again. And the stewards this time, they did not like that. Forced another car off the track. I mean, can you spot the bit where the car goes off the track? Because I certainly can't see it. Unless we're talking about the car that was on my inside, which we did slightly make contact with. But, I mean, that kind of shows you the penalty system can be not very context aware on some occasions. Especially on a track like this with the tight chicanes as they are. So this race, I mean, there was the potential. When you're starting towards the front, there's always the potential. We move back to 8th there, but it's going to be disappointing result. I think that's fair to say. This guy going quite wide over the curb. Can we get through back to 7th? I mean, trying to salvage whatever you can as we cross the line is going to be a P7. Well, that was a massive disappointment and definitely not a first place. The guy who won just said, "This win is for you. I've been dedicated to win at least." And this guy says, "Viewers, hello." Hello, viewers indeed. Now, for this final race, it was really a good example of never giving up. As you can see, I started the race in 12th. There definitely wasn't a large portion of this race which I edited out after I spun into the wall unassisted. I would never do such a thing. And take a look at this. In 12th place, heading down towards the hairpin on lap number 1, we have 2 cars going incredibly wide. So wide, in fact, they're probably ending up in Quebec. Such is the distance from the track they are here at Montreal. Find ourselves here up in 9th. At the end of lap 2, 8th, heading into the back of Got Max Power, who stumbles over the curb as a result. And the stewards didn't look kindly upon that. And there's no prizes for guessing what my vocabulary was in that instant. Having to serve a very sizable 4.5 second penalty, which puts me well off the pack here. So this turned into a bit of a time trial, just trying to catch up and never give up. As we have 2 laps to go, trying to set some faster laps. We managed to do that, 20.3, solid lap time in the race. And I think that's the overall summary for me of this one, which is I felt quite comfortable in clean air. When I was on my own, with no one to have to worry about, I was actually quite fast. I think the pace was good. However, as soon as any traffic became involved, and that is a normal thing in racing, there are other cars, believe it or not, then I had massive issues like this. Just again, not really judging it correctly. Thankfully, I backed off. He recovered. That was actually a really solid recovery from that guy, really well held. And the stewards were a bit more favourable upon me on this occasion. So sometimes the stewards can be quite nice. So, trying to make our way through. I'm in 9th still. I haven't really gained any positions. Such was the distance I dropped when I had to serve that 4-second penalty. However, here, yellow flag, two cars spinning out, and a couple of positions we gained. Up to 7th, there's going to be another yellow flag here, so another incident. And as that car in front cuts the corner, we can see that clearly has damage, because coming down towards the hairpin, driving a lot slower than probably he ought to at this point. Up to the inside we go with an actual chance here of 5th, which would be a solid recovery, given that we were in 12th at one point, and that I was a long way off the pack, and still only actually 8 seconds off the lead, which is not too great a distance given our position earlier. Fully utilising the overtake button here at the end, going to the outside. Can we just get in front before the chicane? Yes, we can. And yes, not the prettiest race of all time, but it was a solid recovery, and I think it's a decent result to eventually get back to a P5. How on earth I got back to 5th there, I have no idea. Actually, no, I do. It's because there's loads of carnage in this race, quite clearly. Half of which was caused by me, and as a result, as you can see here, my sportsmanship rating has gone down to A. So it's time for me to go away now and try to recover the situation the best I can. Thank you for watching. See you next time.